Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. I'm here with my good friend Lorna, who I call one of my greatest cheerleaders.
Hi, I'm Lorna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I strive to embrace and enjoy each new phase of life. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
This episode is part 3 from a conversation we had looking back on what we've learned during our mothering journey. The rest of this conversation can be found in the previous 2 episodes. Let's listen in.
As I'm parenting, I'm realizing where I was then. So it was, my oldest was probably a freshman in high school. And I remember her coming home and saying something to the effect of, "Mom, I went in the visiting basketball team's locker room and wrote my cell phone number on the mirror." And I about died.
You have never told me about this before. This is funny. Keep going.
And I kind of freaked out. I wanted to help her see, like, this could be a problem. You don't know what people are going to text you. You don't know what they're going to call and tell you. We don't just go throw around our phone number wherever we want. And I was really nervous about how that would play out, what would happen. And in that scenario, I had kind of a realization, and it was, if I freak out when she tells me something, she's not going to tell me things. And that was that little reminder, that little nudge to let them say whatever they want to say, and I get to love them no matter what happens, and I'll support them and help them through whatever is needed. And I really needed that, especially with my oldest at about 14 years old. I needed that so then I could be prepared when number 2 said things, and my number 3 child said things, and number 4 says things, and just keep that communication open. If they're willing to share, I want to hear it, and I want to support them and be on their team.
I love the idea that we're allies. We're our children's allies. You can still have pretty much the conversation you may have tried to yell at her or whatever. Or like you could say the same things that you might have been like, what? But you could have the same conversation.
I totally agree with that.
But you can have the conversation and the comment like, oh, all right. You know, I'm a little concerned about that. Can we talk about it? And you can still talk about all the things. My oldest had a situation that he was struggling with just this week. And texted me. He's like, "Mom, this just happened, and here's how I feel, and I want to talk about it." And it's just so nice. And they're like, "I want to talk about it." They're just like, "Oh, yay! You know, this is good." And so we did talk about it. And we shared some thoughts, and he was stressed about expectation. And then my husband and I were like, "Look, there is no expectation here. We wanted to tell you our thoughts, and now you get to decide, and we trust you to make that decision." And so it's cool to be in this older kid phase. Right now for me it's teenagers because I don't have an adult yet, but to just be able to share thoughts and listen to them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and one of the things that I felt really strongly about when my kids were little is to help emphasize the fact that Satan wants us to hide and to keep secrets. And so I tried early on to tell my kids, and I don't feel like it's ever too late. So if you wanted to implement this, you totally could at any point in time. But he wants us to keep secrets, because when we are keeping secrets, then we're hiding. We're feeling the shame and the guilt, and we're struggling on the inside, but we're not willing to let anyone else help us. But if we'll voice it, then there's a little bit of light, and we can see that there's actually a little bit of hope, and we don't have to feel so miserable. So from early on, I had tried to tell my kids, don't keep secrets. If somebody says you can't tell your mom, or you can't tell anyone, that's the time when you tell your mom. That's the time when you let it out. We make sure that you're telling us, because we want to keep you safe and taken care of. But if you keep secrets, then we don't know how to help you. That has been something, and I try and bring that conversation up with my family, my kids still. My youngest is 14, and still from time to time, hey, remember, you don't need to keep secrets. Remember, it's way better to share. You don't have to tell everyone,
Right.
But confide in someone and get help. And hopefully it's me. And if it's not, that's okay too.
Right.
Find somebody that you trust.
Right. Well, and I love this idea that you don't have to tell everyone everything, right? We don't need everything plastered again around everywhere.
Right.
But to find someone who you trust. And I think that's the other thing. Find those people who are trustworthy. And hopefully, as your parent, I can be trustworthy to you. But in the event that for whatever reason, there's something you don't want to share with me, and maybe it's because the issue's with me, then hopefully you have this circle of caring people and trustworthy people who you could share.
Yeah.
So you can let that light in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've always loved when Lorna says that. And she'll bring it up every so often. Like, yeah, when I was talking to my kids and just reminding them, Satan works with secrets, but we want to hide it. It sounds like the very beginning seeds of why you had chosen the kind of life coaching you've chosen. Talk about the kind of life coaching you do, because it totally relates to that same idea.
of just being able to share.
Yeah, well, yeah, being able to share and not hide. Because my understanding is with your life coaching, you're like, don't hide from the feelings you're having. Be willing to name them. Be willing to speak them out. And you don't have to tell everyone. Sometimes I just write them on a piece of paper. I'm only speaking them to myself. And if God already knows, I don't even have to speak them to him. But I guess I'm speaking to him too. I'm like, hey, yes, I know. Right now, I feel like I hate so-and-so. That's how I feel. I want to punch him in the face. Okay. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And to acknowledge that rather than be like, I can't feel that way. I can't actually feel that hate feeling. I can't feel like I want to punch someone in the face. That's violence and whatever. Just write it out. Be like, there it is.
And I think you're totally right. I think that was part of why I have loved coaching so much, is that there really is a space to tell someone and to share, and that we don't have to feel like I can't tell anyone. I can't let this out. I feel like there were times in my life as a young mom specifically that I felt like I couldn't tell people with my anxiety and whatever. I couldn't tell them what I was really thinking or feeling, because it would be too painful for them. But there is something about letting it out, and then you can heal. Then you can get some traction and make some changes and heal.
Yep. It's just cool. It's cool sometimes to see how where we were actually was kind of leading towards something we've decided to do, like, all along.
Yeah. Even as she's talking about how it's helped us along the way, I feel like the other day somebody had commented to me saying, hey, you're natural at this particular thing. And I would have never thought I was natural at that particular thing. But as I looked back, I can see how my life, like God has helped shape my life to help me become more natural at that thing, possibly has just helped shape and refine me to become better at that thing. And I think that's what it's all about. Like the whole purpose of going through life is to just kind of get some little nudges here and here to get better and to keep progressing and getting better. And I just am thankful for that somebody else was able to point out in me, so then I could go back and look through. Yeah, I have been conditioned and helped along the way to be able to be at this place.
Yep. I was just thinking of some of the things I've said to my kids a lot. And one of them is I will tell them straight up, hey, so this is the first time I've done this parenting thing. And so I actually don't really know the answer right now. We're going to figure it out, right? Because I could teach them, like, we can figure this out, and I'm going to try something and we're going to see how it goes. And I don't know if it's going to work well. But I think it's okay to tell our kids that sometimes. And even now as teenagers, they'll be like, Mom, I just want to know what the plan is. And I say, so do I. Sometimes it's something as simple as like the weekend plan, but my husband and I haven't quite settled whether we have a difference of opinion or we're both just like, well, I don't know. We don't know the plan yet. And so just to remind them, I'm doing it for the first time. You're doing teenage life for the first time. So let's just be patient with everyone. And it's interesting to see how those little things, those little nudges you get to say to your kids, they help even as they get older and they remember them. And it's a surprise sometimes. My oldest will be like, oh, I remember this time you did this. And I was like, oh, so glad you remember that. Now, of course, other times they remember someone, I'm like, oh, can we talk about that experience? I think I want to apologize. And that's okay, but it's great that they bring it up.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the last thing that's on my mind is you were talking about keeping the communication open is this. I have had at least 2 of my kids come to me with something that was very, very heavy for them and that they were very worried about. Come to me and be like, I am scared to tell you about this, but I really want to tell you about it because I'm sick of not telling you about it. And they told me about it. And in both of those instances, my first response was to just give them a big hug and say, I love you. And I'm like, it's all right. Like, we can figure this out. We can talk about it. And one of them was a little bit funny. Like, this is not as big as what you just made that sound like, right? And the other one, it was like, you know what, this is also going to be okay. But I think keeping that communication open and being willing to go back and heal the breach. Because like Lorna said, if they aren't coming to you because you freaked out in the past, well, guess what? I freak out all the time. I'm like, oh my word, you guys, I'm sorry I freaked out right there. Can we try that again? So I would just say I've also learned the power of a do-over with my kids, and actually going to my children and saying, can we have a do-over? I don't like how I showed up there. And it's amazing that they will be like, okay, Mom. And sometimes be like, but not right now, because they're still cranky with me or whatever. But I think we can have a do-over. And I think we can apologize, and we can build that open communication at whatever stage we're at. And we don't have to take it like, if I'd been more like Lorna, they would have come to me sooner. No, that's not a thing. They came to me when they came to me, and at that point, I now have a choice to move on. Or with your kids, like when they came to you, you don't have to be like, oh, if only I'd asked them this question then, maybe they would have opened up sooner. We don't know, and we don't have to worry about it. We can just open up the communication.
Totally. And I love the idea of it's never too late and it's never too early.
I agree.
I think anytime we want to start something can be the perfect time.
Yep. The very best time to start anything is like right now, right? Or if you want to be like, well, it was actually a long time ago, the second best time is now.
We're so glad that you joined us today as we went down memory lane and thought about parenting teens. As this episode is shared with you, we are both even further along the parenting journey. Lorna has only one child left at home, and I'm beginning the phase of parenting adult children. The adventure continues. Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Lorna Adams.
And I'm Amy Rasmussen. See you next week at Moms.